and welcome to Life a Day. We're back in a small boat. I've got to finish my shelf that I was making to go in the corner. I've done some sanding this morning. I've not bothered filming that because we've all seen sanding. I've done plenty of that the other day. So I've got to get this finished. Before I can put that in with the other section, I need to glass this so that it's not going to break out, because at the moment that's just held in with that bonding paste. Eventually that might crack and pop off, so I want to glass these two surfaces together. Same on the bottom, and cover up all this where it's going to join onto the boat. So there's a few little dry spots on this, basically from the edge of that sheet that we trimmed off. So what I'm going to do is, if I glass over that, I'm going to trap in voids. So what I'm going to do quickly is I'm just going to put some paste over that. Most of it's okay, there's just a couple of spots. These are going to just help bind in the paste when I stick it to the side of the boat. I'm not worried about the wispy bits. But there's a couple of little bits there that just need a tiny bit of filler on. So I've acetoned this up, ready to go. And then we're going to lay some glass. I've got some CSM, chopped strand matting. And that's going to go in there. And we'll glass these two halves together and this section on the back. So right, let's get cracking with that. First off, I'm going to mix up some bonding paste. Now, I don't need a lot. I've just cleaned up all my mixing board, ready to go. Probably be a little bit too much, but I don't want to run out. A couple of bits both sides. I reckon that'll do it. Quite a small amount, so. I don't want this to hang about, I want it to go off quite quick. But just be soft enough that I can roll it with my glass and it will take up the gap, scooping to the glass. Probably mix this up at about 2%. You can mix it up at about 1.5, like 1.5 to 2. So you just basically, you've got to make sure that you've got your catalyst well incorporated so that it's fully mixed. I'll put a little bit more in that, not a lot. So all I do is add drops of this stuff. It's depending on how much you're mixing up. That's why I like my little measuring spoons, because I'll roughly mix up like a golf ball size or larger, and I know which spoon to use. So I've mixed up enough of it now, I can tell roughly how much I'm going to need. The other thing you do have to do is you have to adjust it to the weather. If you're doing it in very hot weather, you've got to use a bit less. You don't want to add too much either. Obviously it is a reaction you're causing, a catalyst, and this stuff can catch fire, so So that's nicely mixed up now. Let's spread some of this on there. So I've got these dry sections here, so I'm going to force that through there, so it should start coming right through the glass on those dry sections there. Now this is all going to be glassed in place, sanded and whatnot and all the rest of it, then painted anyway, so this isn't going to matter any at all. It won't make any difference whatsoever. That'll get sanded off once that's all dried off. Okay, I put some glass over this the other week, some filler over this the other week to blend this in, but there's a few little dry gaps there still that are going to cause voids when I glass it. So we'll just cover that lot up and then get some glass on there. And that should all roll out together. Trying to keep this so you can see what's going on. Right, so I'm not worried about this edge, that will sand off when I'm done. Yeah. Down on there. Right. Well, I suppose that can fill up some voids under there. Any little gaps. This has all been sanded. It does need a bit of acetone. I was hoping to get this in today, but I've got to glass this shelf up first before I can get any of this done. So this will all be fillered when I'm done. Made all nice and smooth for painting. But it's got to have more glass over it yet, so there's no point with a finishing coat just yet. So beautiful. I'll spread a bit of this over here just to use it up. I've got to filler it all anyway, but it means I'll have to sand this again now, because next week that will need sanding before I can do anything else. But it's either that or completely waste it. Might as well use it up. There's a couple of little pinholes in the glass. Get rid of some of them voids when it's when you glass that lot, that will just make voids. any little pinholes in there is your next void when you're glassing. So we don't want those. Right, get me a brush. Oh, it's warm in here. Right, got some resin. So this has been standing again, so make sure you give your resin a shake. Yeah. Not want to mix up too much. I might need to mix a little bit more, but I don't want to do too much at a time. I'm only doing a small amount. I'll need more than that. Changing with it. I think I'm going to need a little bit more than that. So. Very hard to knock up small amounts. So. That's better. So what I'm doing now is just laying the resin over the part that I want to glass. I'm getting quite a build on there. And hopefully when I put the glass on, that will soak through the glass. So what I've got here is the feathered edge and a straight edge. So I want the straight edge for the straight edge of the glass. Tore, so what I've done is make sure it's feathered on the edge there, where that's going to overlap. I'm just going to wet that out first. Then pop that on there. There we go. what that's doing, that's bringing that resin that I've just put down through that glass. Now we need to add some more, obviously. Just work that through that glass. Want to get it out of this cup as quick as possible as well, because while it's in the cup, the depth of that's going to make it heat up quicker. Once it's rolled out thin, it won't warm up quite as fast, so it'll give you a lot longer working time with your resin. These little wispy bits I'll sand off when they're set up. That'll give me a better edge to finish on. We'll get this worked in and then we'll go over it with a thin roller. So we'll get all that air out then. You can work it through with a brush if you're doing some areas, you know, small repairs and that. You can just use a brush, tapping the air out as you go to one side, just working the air down. I always think it looks a lot better when you've rolled it out as well though. There we go. Right, so yeah, had plenty of resin there. Probably got enough to do the other side, but it's going to be rather awkward to flip it over and do the other side as well. Yeah. Removing some of the excess resin there. Do. Okay, some of that off. Yeah, we pop that rolling all over the side. Beautiful. Just a little bit of mess out of the way. So now just take this thin roller and just work any air out, rolling that excess resin out of the glass. That will come off the sides. And roll that from the middle up. That excess resin's there, then that will be sanded off. And then down. There's the excess coming off there. If you can't see, let's just lift that up. So you start in the middle, work your way up and out, and then down to the other end. You see that excess resin coming off the bottom. You've got that overhang of glass there, that soaks up that excess resin. And then afterwards that will be trimmed or sanded off. It gets rid of that. So it's not a race, nice and slowly. Obviously you can't take all day about it. It's catalyst is in there. It's a reaction, it's going off. Once that's mixed, that catalyst is doing its job. and the resin will cure, you know, so you haven't got all day. And the hotter the weather, the less time you've got. So be aware, if you're doing this in blazing sunshine outside, you might not have long at all. It could be the difference between 5-10 minutes. If it's a bit cooler or you're not out in the sun, you could have 15-20 minutes. I like to go both directions, you know, starting in the middle, roll it up to get that resin out the top, and then roll it down. And just out to the side, that little bit there, you can see that excess resin just coming off there. You don't want a wet mix. Again, you don't want a dry layup either. You know, it has to have a bit of moisture to it, but you don't want an excess. You know, if it's too wet, you'll get a brittle layup. I'm quite happy with that now. Now obviously if it's too dry, there'll be no strength in the glass. It will just, you know, fiberglass without resin is not very good. It's got no strength at all, is it? Right, so always keep your acetone handy. As soon as you're finished, get that roller back in the acetone, give that a wash out. I always keep some handy when I'm rolling glass out anyway, and periodically what I'll do is I'll rinse that off anyway and then just dry the roller before carrying on rolling anymore, because sometimes that resin will get in between the roller and the actual handle and it will gum it up and it will stop the wheel from turning. So keep it clean. Right, so we've got some excess resin there. So what you must do, I'll stick that outside in the middle of the floor where it can't do any damage. Now, if it was to catch light, which I mean this amount I don't think will, but keep it outside. Don't ever store that in your boat. If it's last thing at night and you've just finished and you've got a bit of resin left over, don't leave it in your boat. If it catches light, you're going to set light to everything. You know, stick it outside on a concrete floor in the middle of nowhere, not near anything, where if it does catch light, it's not going to do any harm. Right, thanks for watching, and yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you all again next time. I'm going to stop this video there because it's getting a bit on the long side, and I'll do some more when I do the other side. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye for now.